Hi, and welcome to the Fortify Your Brain Summit. I'm Betsy Schroeder, your host, and today I have as my guest Dr. Sandra Scheinbaum. And Dr. Scheinbaum is founder and CEO of the Functional Medicine Coaching Academy in collaboration with the Institute for Functional Medicine. She is a leader in the field of health coaching education, a licensed clinical psychologist for over 35 years. She's an expert at blending functional medicine principles with positive psychology, cognitive behavioral therapy, and mind-body medicine. She is the author of 3 books, Functional Medicine Coaching, Stop Panic Attacks in 10 Easy Steps, and How to Give Clients the Skills to Stop Panic Attacks. Welcome, Dr. Scheinbaum.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got interested, particularly in the brain.
Sure. Well, I was always interested in the brain because I wanted to be a teacher, specifically an elementary school teacher, and that's all about helping young students to learn. I wanted to be primary education, reading, and those learning skills, as well as the importance of social learning. And so I worked for many years with children as well as adults with learning disabilities. That was part of my training. It was my master's, and taught teachers how to teach people with special needs. So that was certainly learning the different ways that the brain learns. That was our focus in learning disabilities. We would do these very complicated psychodiagnostic evaluations to see how does somebody process information, what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses in terms of their learning style. And we were looking at the time just in that narrow focus. We weren't looking at the overall brain health. But my journey towards that involved doing a lot of training in mind-body medicine. We're talking late 70s, early 80s. That was long before it even had a name. And I was doing breathing training with people using biofeedback, dual respiration belts, and I had the good fortune to personally train with a lot of leaders in that field, as well as leaders in cognitive behavior therapy and the early science and research looking at the power of changing your self-talk, changing your interpretation. That can make a world of difference in terms of your subsequent emotional reactions and actions. And from there, I started taking lots of nutrition courses, became a clinical psychologist, got my PhD, and specialized in positive psychology, but this was many years before that had a name. And we know that the application of those theories really supports optimal brain health, and then studied at the Institute for Functional Medicine and learned the systems biology approach, the idea that you could find the root cause of what's going on, and really in a way that my journey towards functional medicine is circling right back to where I started my roots in education, because the approach that I was taking in learning disabilities was, okay, a child can't read, but let's find the root cause. Is it because they can't hear the sound? Is it because they can't distinguish? Is it because they have a visual problem in terms of being able to perceive the letters on the page? Is it the level of receptive language, being able to understand higher level thought? So what we were doing, you could say, was a functional medicine approach to the learning process, other that it didn't have the nutrition piece and the sleep component and some of the areas that have to do with gut health that we now know, of course, play a big role in neurodevelopmental disorders. So I founded the Functional Medicine Coaching Academy, which put together all of these traditions that I had been practicing, teaching about, doing workshops about, and I was always very big on integrative approaches. In other words, it's not just, oh, we're going to do one thing, we have one philosophy, one method, that breathing is the one thing, or cognitive, changing your thoughts is the one thing. It's always integrative, where you put it all together, and that's what makes it so much more powerful. So we founded the Functional Medicine Coaching Academy. I was 65, not ready to retire in any way. And this is my mission and purpose now. I want to train thousands of health coaches because I believe that they are the solution to helping people overcome the chronic diseases that are killing us, including cognitive decline.
Absolutely. And so you mentioned the positive psychology. So what is that, and how does that impact our lives, like our health in general?
Let me start by saying what it is not. It is not what traditional psychology is about, which is there's something wrong with you, or there's something wrong with your mother. It was your upbringing. It was something that's always about what's wrong. And let's find out, let's label that as a disorder. You have major depression, you have an anxiety, panic disorder, and so on. And now we're going to find a way to treat it. Perhaps if you are a psychologist, like I was for so many years, you would treat it with psychotherapy. You would use mind-body medicine approaches. But the idea is that you're starting with disorder, you're treating it. Or if you're in the psychiatric world, it would be treating it with medications, most likely. But positive psychology came along in the mid-90s, thanks to Marty Seligman. And he was at the time president of the American Psychological Association. He said, no, let's look at a different way. And he was very interested in studying what's right with you. So positive psychology is really the scientific study of what's right with people. When somebody is flourishing, when somebody has a life well lived, what does that mean? What are the components to having a life well lived?
So there's a lot of stress going on right now, a lot of anxiety about health and money. So can you talk a little bit about anxiety? I know you had a book on panic attacks, which goes along with anxiety. I experienced that myself a number of years ago. So just a little bit about what anxiety is and what happens in the brain when you're anxious, and then what are some of the downstream effects when you're in that kind of fear state?
Well, there are many levels of anxiety. At a low level, it could be, it's normal, it's healthy to be concerned. We certainly want to be concerned when there are threats. There's a threat to our well-being, the health of our family. We have financial concerns. So call those low-level emotions, and they're natural. So it's natural within the course of a day that you would have a whole cascade of emotions. You might have, on the one hand, you might have experienced pure joy, something that really brings a smile to yourself, happiness. And then I had that this morning, actually. I had a wonderful call. I brought some people together over Zoom, and it was great. And I felt it was a very heart-centered conversation. And then you might turn on the news, you might see a headline, you might start to think about something that is troubling. And so you acknowledge that feeling, that it's sadness, I'm concerned, and those are very normal, uncomfortable feelings, but most of the time very appropriate. Anxiety is when it goes up a notch. And now you are starting to be in the realm of the what ifs. Because anxiety, one easy way to think of it, anxiety is in the future, whereas depression is more in the past. So somebody who is experiencing depression might be saying to themselves things like, oh, it's always been bad. My childhood was awful. I was miserable, and I'm miserable now. And so, but they're going back and they're reliving past events, and might be the sense of this is bad stuff that happened in the past, and but then the anxiety, and then they're concluding that it'll never get any better. Right. I was a failure, or my life has been hard and miserable. It's horrible now. I'm feeling horrible now, and it'll never get better. That's depression. Okay. Anxiety is more of a what if. You're scaring yourself. It's like you're a fortune teller, and you've read the future, and you've concluded that this is something bad, and it's like, it's what if, and you're assuming it's going to happen. So it is, and the logical reasoning is to acknowledge what's fact. Okay, so this is, and you acknowledge that it's in the present, because everything else in the future is just a prediction. It's a hypothesis. We don't know the outcome. Certainly, in a good way of looking at it is, who would know in December of 2019, as we welcomed in 2020, what was going to happen? So we can't predict. We can make a hypothesis. We can say, based on this information, this is likely to happen, but we can't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. And the field of cognitive behavior therapy is helping you to start thinking in a more scientific way. That this is a hypothesis that you have, but it's not proven. And so anxiety is where you start to pull the future into the present. And your body is responding as if it happens now. So in other words, if you are thinking about something in the future and it's really scary, okay, and maybe it certainly could happen. Let's say you're picturing yourself, in the hospital. I could get really sick. I could be on a ventilator. I could be in a hospital. Yes, you could.
Right.
But is it happening at this very moment? No. So you could say, well, no. At this moment, I'm at home. I'm taking a breath. I'm able to experience the health of that breath. Mm-hmm. And I can't prove beyond a reasonable doubt that this will happen. And so that's how you get back out of anxiety. So, but if it's in your mind and you start picturing yourself in that future on that ventilator, let's say, mm-hmm. well, your body thinks you're there. So there's an old saying that I've said thousands of times to clients and written about it. What's real in the mind is real in the body. Your body doesn't know. It's not out there. It's relying on your perceptions. Right. So if you say to yourself, or if you're picturing, because it can be thoughts, it can be words, it can be spoken word, and if I'm thinking about or picturing myself, lying in that hospital bed, and I get all worked up, it's because your brain is sending signals that it's danger. So right. It's like a home alarm, and it's triggering this alarm response, as we all know it as the fight or flight. The body thinks a wild animal's running after you, and it's acting intelligently. Mm-hmm. You're bracing to fight, your breathing is off because you have to get in there really quickly to run away or fight. You don't have time for a nice belly breath, and every system is involved in preparing you to fight or run away. And so how do you get out of it? Well, you start to apply those principles, and you start to slow your breathing. You notice, my shoulders are at my ears. I can, that feels nice, right? Go. And there are many different strategies one of the most effective is to divert your attention to something that's guaranteed to bring you joy. I love tap dancing, and so before this call, I took a tap dancing class. It was virtual, and I had my tap shoes on, and I was out in the garage, and it pulled my attention because I had to learn the steps, and they're hard. And so you focus on something in the moment that's guaranteed to bring you joy because you like it. And if it's something that can be very engaging, where you have to really be in that flow state, all the better.
Oh, okay. What are some other examples of that help people, especially say if they're driving and they're not going to go tap dance or something? What are some strategies for they're starting to get all stressed about what's going on, they're driving and they're in traffic? Yeah. What can they do?
Yeah. You access your senses, the 5 senses, because this is what you have available right now. What do I see? So perhaps you may gaze up at the blue sky and notice that it's really clear day. Or you may have the windows rolled down if you can, and you feel the breeze on your face. You are in touch with being alive now. and you take in, wow, it's wonderful. You start to say some gratitude about, oh, it's great that I can see. It's great that I have this car. I'm so thankful. I'm thankful that I know how to drive. I'm thankful that my car is, doing its thing, going, the engine's working well. I'm grateful that I can draw in this breath. You may notice some physical sensation. Again, what it feels like, that breeze. You may notice, this feels good if I roll my shoulders up, back, and down, doing some shoulder rolls. You may, if you're a music lover, or you may turn on the radio, you may put on your favorite song. I like to play something loud. I'm a music theater fan. I'll put on a great music theater soundtrack. Or perhaps you like to be engaged with a podcast, because that also can draw you away. So you may start to listen to something that you can hear something, either some music you like, or something stimulating and engaging that you can learn about. And so you take, it's in the moment. It's something that you can see, hear, feel, touch, and that it's moment to moment. You'd have no expectation. This is really key. You don't say, oh, I better listen to this music so that I can calm myself. You say, it's going to feel so good when I listen to this. And then you have patience. If you're getting all worked up, know that the body gets worked up quickly. It has to. It's like, what happens if you have an alarm, a home alarm, let's say? Okay, it has to be immediate. You press that alarm, and your first responders are going to be there instantly, because it thinks your house is on fire. You got to be safe. But to relax, that's a slow process that takes patience. So the body calms itself. It's almost like system by system shutting down. So using that home alarm analogy a little bit further, let's say you smell smoke, you trigger the alarm, you've got the fire department's coming out. Well, they're not just going to come and say, okay, looks all clear, goodbye. They're going to be very thorough. They're going to go room by room. They're going to really check it out. And it's going to take a while. And that's the same thing. That's how our bodies work. So you say things to yourself, well, soon I'll feel so much better. This is my body acting intelligently. I've scared myself, and the body has gotten worked up. In the case of a bad panic attack, that can happen where your heart's pounding. You can feel all kinds of whole variety of physical symptoms. But you understand, okay, my body knows what to do. Isn't it great that it's working appropriately? I've tried out this alarm system, and okay, check, I know it's working. And now it's time to turn my attention to something that's going to bring me joy.
So, and that's for some of the acute situations where you're anxious and you're stressed in the moment. But then what about like the field of psychoneuroimmunology and some of these chronic issues where people are stuck in stress? Maybe they have like chronic fatigue syndrome kind of thing, or any kind of chronic health issue where there's definitely stress involved. Like maybe that's the first thing that sets them off, and then they really can't get out of this chronic stress. How can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, stress is natural. So stress is a physiological response. We have two sides. We have a parasympathetic, which is a relaxation, so to speak. We have a stress response. We want it. If we didn't have it, we couldn't function as a human being. So it's within us that we have the ability to shift, go back and forth. We can have quiet states, and we can have states of higher arousal. What we're really talking about is how we interpret the stressors that are in our lives, and it's personalized. So I'll give you an example. When the amusement parks are open, I used to go, my family. I hated roller coasters ever since I was a little girl. Any kind of thing that had motion, and I remember being on a Ferris wheel when I was little, like, get me off of here. It was awful. Roller coasters, forget about it. So if I was standing in line to ride one of those like where you twirling upside down in a roller coaster, I would be super scared. I would be really anxious. I would be undergoing a stress response. My body would be responding to the threat of this ride. But the person in front of me or back of me, and I see like they would be jumping up and down with excitement. This is going to be so much fun. Wow. So what is stressful it's personalized. So one person will have a stress reaction to something in their lives, whereas somebody else might have a completely different interpretation. It's, again, how you interpret it. So there are people who may have physical symptoms, and then they have a response to it, an interpretation of what's going on that could be radically different from another individual. So somebody may wake up and experience something that's, we would say, is really hard, debilitating. And yet they are not experiencing the overload of the stress reaction. It's just a physical symptom. So maybe they're, again, chronic fatigue is a set of symptoms. It's the body's reaction. And there are underlying causes. And if we're looking at functional medicine, we would dig down to what's causing this. Could it be mold? Could it be Lyme? Could it be trauma of some sort? Could it be other sorts of environmental toxins, heavy metals, for example? So functional medicine specialists would get to the root of it. But then what we have is an overlay of how we're interpreting. So some person might have something that they're saying, this is, I can't tolerate this. I can't cope with it. Whereas another person can say, okay, this is hard, this is challenging, but I'll find answers. I'll find the right practitioner to help me. I'll work with a health coach. I'll change maybe something in my diet. So they keep going. And so they're having radically different responses. And it has to do with just how they interpret it. And it's a cycle. So the more we are interpreting something as challenging, hard, I will keep going, I've dealt with hard things before, then that kind of response stimulates an immune response. It leads to better health. And so that's the psychoneuroimmunology piece. We picture ourselves well. Mary Morrissey, Dream Builder, talks about this so eloquently, where she was very sick, life-threatening, and she put herself ahead in the future and saw so clearly where she wanted to be. And the body responded and stimulated the immune response, stimulated a healing response. We've seen this over and over again in the literature.
So you're founder and CEO of Functional Medicine Coaching Academy, and I know that really focuses on mindset as well as functional medicine that you mentioned. Can you talk a little bit about that and how it is that sometimes when people are coaching others, they find that they get better themselves?
Yeah, so we've put together all of these amazing principles from functional medicine. The idea that we're not just isolated sets of symptoms, but we have an intelligent matrix of that communicates. And how we digest food is connected with brain health, which is connected with cardiometabolic health, and it's all very much rooted in how we live our lives, what we choose to eat, how the quality of our movement, how much we choose to sleep, and our relationships, and our meaning and purpose. And that's the overarching theme. That is when you come to everything with a meaning and purpose, which is tied in with your community. And so if you dig a little deeper, it's love. And so you are in love. People come to coaching because they have a calling. They want to be a health coach. They're called to serve. And so therefore their work it's so much part of what they love that there's no distinguishing that from their lives outside of work. It's not just this 9-to-5 job. It's like, I love being engaged with clients. And when you are in that process, we call it client-centered, when you're truly listening and truly there and caring, you have a caring attitude, and it's coming across, that you are genuine and you truly care about the person who is with you in that coaching relationship, you are using your character strengths, which is traits that are what's right with you, like gratitude and appreciation and courage, curiosity, and that transforms you. So when we help others, when we can be a guide to others, we heal in the process. So many people come to Functional Medicine Coaching Academy because they have had a health crisis themselves. They may have had that chronic fatigue that you spoke about,
Right.
and they have often found functional medicine. They're just determined their mission is now to go out and help others. And fortunately, you don't need a healthcare background. Anybody who is a good listener and caring will be a wonderful health coach, and we need you now more than ever.
Yes.
We're seeing the world needs health coaches because doctors can't do it all.
Right. And there are, I think, 5 different things that you focus on at functional medicine coaching. And what are those 5 areas?
So, well, the curriculum is functional medicine paired with positive psychology, paired with functional nutrition, which comes from the Institute for Functional Medicine's functional nutrition approach. They're our collaboration partner. Their faculty teaches that content for us. We focus on the psychology of eating and mind-body medicine.
And then you mentioned too, like how, what your mindset is and how that actually impacts what choices you make for healthy eating or for exercising or anything like that. Can you add a little bit to that?
Sure. So it's often starting with an intention. Okay. You have the vision. What do you want your health for? That's mindset. So you have that's your mission and purpose. You go out into the future. What do you love? What brings you the greatest joy? Perhaps you want your health so that you can be around to dance at your child's wedding or grandchild's wedding. And so then you would circle back to the present. Okay, what am I willing to do today that might put me on that path to better health? And you start very, very small, and that's what health coaches can help you with, because sometimes people try to take it on, like, I'm just gonna make all these radical changes. And it's hard. Behavior change is hard. We're creatures of habit, and we might be used to certain things. Comfort foods call us, even though we might set a good intention the beginning of the day. But we, for many reasons, we're bored, we're scared, we're happy, it tastes good, and sometimes we're just out of awareness. We don't even realize. But you start very, very, very small with one thing. Maybe this one thing can I add, and there's many different strategies, and it's personalized. So what can work with one person who perhaps like writing everything down might not work for somebody else, and a coach supports somebody to say, how do you want to do this? What's right for you?
Absolutely. So this is the Fortify Your Brain Summit. What do you do on a regular basis to fortify your brain?
Sure. Well, every day when I wake up, I say something that my mother always said. And so I acknowledge her. She's passed away many years ago, but she always used to say, today is going to be a good day. That's what I will do. I will get out of bed and I will just, and I'll just usually like a kind of a big stretch, like, yes, today's going to be a good day. And I see it. And then I have some structure. I like to have structure. And I write it down. There's a great book by Nir Eyal, Indistractable, where if you program it in, so I program in yoga. I start every day. I've done this for many, many years with a headstand, and a forearm balance and a handstand. I also then will add in 100 push-ups. Then I will take a walk. I do like 300 push-ups a day. I do them in sets, but that because since I'm not going to the gym right now, I do as much as I can with body weight. And then I will add in some type of movement. Usually it's walking. If it's not walking, the weather's not good, I will do burpees, something to get my heart rate going.
Yep.
I'm just one of my character strengths is zest and energy, and so I do better with things that are moving
Yeah.
And so that's part of my day. And then I will alternate. Sometimes I do intermittent fasting. Sometimes I will do a smoothie, and I just
Okay.
load it up with all kinds of brain health foods. And other times I will go to something that would be more food-like and substantial. But so I will do that. And how I love to carry on my day are with work. Work is my mission. And so whether it's doing interviews like this, spreading the word about the power of coaching, or supporting students or graduates, having office hours, I just feel fulfilled knowing that there are now thousands of people that we've trained who are going out and really helping people be the CEOs of their health.
So cool. So where can people learn more about you, about the Functional Medicine Coaching Academy, find out about, when is the next session, when can people enroll, all that?
Sure. So it's functionalmedicinecoaching.org. We have a class that begins September 2020 and then March 2021, I should say. And so we are currently enrolling for the September class, if you're listening to it in this time frame. And you can also follow us on Facebook, Functional Medicine Coaching Academy, and Instagram, Functional Med Coach, or personally, I'm at Dr. Sandy. And I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to connect.
Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. Learned a lot. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Pleasure to talk with you.
You too.
Bye now.